we're mindful, we know what we're thinking, we know what we're feeling at this present moment. Like right now, you know what's going on in your head and what your emotion is. And then to use wisdom with mindfulness is to see that the condition you're feeling, whatever your emotion you're experiencing at the time, it's impermanent, it's changing. And you allow it to be that way. You're not trying to stop it or get rid of it or make anything out of it. But then when it ceases, then there's still awareness, mindfulness, and then because mindfulness is a continuum. It's not dependent upon conditions being present. So the absence of conditions, non-grasping, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. You're aware of greed in the absence of greed, or anger in the absence of anger, confusion in the absence of confusion. So usually we don't notice the absence of things because we're giving all our attention to greed, hatred, delusion, and making personal value judgments, that my greed, my anger problem, my doubts and fears, and seeing always going from one condition to another, where with mindfulness, if you trust it, and so much of our life is the absence of conditions, and we aren't aware. We don't notice that. We don't make a note of it because we're always going from one condition to another. Like restlessness or impatience, because we're boredom, we get bored. And so we're always trying to find something interesting or something, we've got these compulsive tendencies, we've got to get something, we've got to get rid of something. And like the second noble truth is all about awareness of that desire to get something you don't have or get rid of something you have you don't want. And that's about letting go, which letting go means like relaxing. It's not trying to get rid of. It's not a destructive desire. It's just, like upachara, or relaxing all the day of the heart.
It just occurred to me, seek your guidance on how does one become aware of the awareness itself. You mentioned about in your books, a few places, become aware of the awareness, objectless awareness. How does one do that really?
Well, that's the best meditation is awareness, consciousness being aware of itself. Like what I was just saying to Edward was like when we see like we have greed, we have desire to get something, and then we're aware of it. Then we stop thinking about getting rid of it. We accept it, allow it to be what it is, and then it ceases. And there's still awareness, and that awareness then it doesn't have an object. It doesn't have greed as an object. Doesn't have a thought as an object. Doesn't have sensory feeling as an object. But it's aware of itself. So it's not. It's when in Thai they say jit and jit. It's nirodha. It's the third noble truth. When consciousness knows its self, because it's self-aware. It's not an object because you can't. But like right now, if I ask you if you're aware, if you're conscious, you're gonna have to say yes, and you don't even have to think about it. You know that you're conscious, and everyone here is conscious. So if I ask everyone here whether they're conscious, they're going to say, yeah. How do you know that? Because it's not an object you can find, but it's a knowing. In the present, it's awareness. Sati, sampajanya, satipanya. And so, the self-view, the Sakya Ditti, is where we operate. Where we claim everything on a personal level. My body, my thoughts, my memories, my feelings, my greed, my hatred, my delusion. Everything is identified in personal pronouns. And that's the Sakya Ditti, the ego, that is one of the first fetter that blocks awareness, blocks enlightenment. And so it's culturally conditioned too. Every culture we assume that we are limited to the physical body, and that I am this body, I'm this age, I'm this personality. And where with awareness we're not thinking about I'm creating that sense of me by thinking I am this physical body. This body is me. It's thinking. If you stop thinking, the body's still here, which is then seen in terms of, it's a sankhara, it's a condition that's present, but you're not claiming it with personal pronouns. It is what it is. It's sitting, standing, walking, lying down, breathing. It's sensory form. It's about sensitivity and about seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. But what is really operating is consciousness through the senses that is impersonal. Consciousness is not personal. You can't claim it. It's not my consciousness and your consciousness. Not like your consciousness is in your body and my consciousness is in mine. That's how we tend to experience life, from this very separative feeling that I am separate from you. But in consciousness, we're one. Complete. Consciousness is the same for all of us. It's not personal, not male or female, not Indian or Thai or American. So it's universal. And this is like the challenge of the holy life, is to be able to see that where we see everything from divisive thoughts, like I'm sitting here and you're sitting there, so on the term of sight, you're an object to my vision, and that's and so it's this sense of separation. It creates problems because you, even though consciousness is the same, at this moment it's exactly the same. Your thoughts, your feelings, your physical body are different than my physical body, my feelings, my memories at this moment. But if we take a refuge in awareness, in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, in other words, then that is impersonal. It's not personal anymore. So we begin to see the personal conditions as created by us through thinking. I have to think. I am Ajahn Sumedho. I am this physical being. I'm 85 years old, and then I become a physical body. I become a personality. But if I don't do that, if I just trust in the awareness, then I'm not creating suffering. I'm not creating delusions. So that's like consciousness knowing consciousness. Knows itself, like they say, the sun doesn't need to look at itself because its very nature is luminosity. So consciousness doesn't doesn't need me as a person to observe it. It's just awakening to it, recognizing it. So that's what enlightenment is, the Buddhist sense of enlightenment. Jit and jit, the consciousness knows itself.
Intellectually, Bhante, it is quite clear, but when we work and practice, say the absence of whatever is arising is also detected, but some things seem to remain always there. For example, sound of silence seems to be always there. The body awareness seems to be always there. So objectless awareness is not experienced. That's what I...
Well, this is where you trust the awareness. You have to, because the sense of separateness seems so obvious. Because, in terms of worldly Dhamma, you're an object of my sight.
Yeah.
And I'm then the language itself, the sense of the self is a separate self, is a created thought. But when there's just awareness, jit and jit, the consciousness knowing itself, it's peaceful. The nature of consciousness is peaceful. It's here and now. It's not an object, but it's knowing knowing the citta without because that's natural. That's Dhamma. That's the way it is. But when you think about it, then you get caught into doubt, or because the very nature of thinking is to divide and separate. So that's why thinking can't take you to Nibbana, because Nibbana is perfect. It isn't separate. It isn't a personal condition. It's not something you create. It's here and now. But the sense of the separate self is when identified with my thoughts, my memories, I always feel this sense of separateness, of something incomplete. Even in a positive way, even when everything is going well for me as a person, there's still dukkha, still suffering, because this separateness, this very nature, creates this fear, it creates self-consciousness, worry about the future. You think of the future. I practice a lot just being here in the present. So I relax into the present. Because the future, tomorrow I have to go somewhere. And the day after tomorrow I go back to Ratana One, and then the plans and the thoughts, create, possibilities for, you're getting old, you have more, you resist traveling more and more, it's more difficult to move around, and when I was young, I really loved to travel. Traveled all over. But the future right now is like this. It's still, it's peaceful. And that's the nature of consciousness. And it's deathless. It's not something you can create, or something that is created by somebody else. Perfect, it's perfection. But it's like the gaps between words, like when we think of ourselves, we think, I'm Ajahn Sumedho. You notice that language itself is, you can only think one word at a time, one thought in a moment. You can't think two thoughts at the same moment. But if you're aware of thinking, that awareness isn't about a moment anymore. The thought comes and goes, but there's still awareness. So I take something like I am a human being, something kind of taken for granted, non-emotional, didn't arouse any feeling. Say it's a kind of matter of fact, I'm a human being, and think I, and then the pronoun I, personal pronoun. There's consciousness when you're not thinking. So you're paying attention to the gaps between the words, which we don't tend to know. Because the thinking process has grammar, so I am Ajahn, Sumedho, I am a human being, is a complete thought. But in terms of the here and now, you can only think one word at a time. And when you stop thinking that word, there's still consciousness. And you notice this. You recognize this is non-personal. Where the thought I is personal. Am is a verb, a human being, so then at the end of the human being there's still conscious awareness with no thought. And you zero in on that, where you notice, you're not interested in the content of the sentence. Because it's kind of not interesting. It's taken for granted, but you're interested when there's non-thinking. Be interested in non-thinking. And then that as you do that, because it's all the time, the thoughts move very quickly. But consciousness is always here and now. Or perceiving things, we perceive through the senses, or we think, we perceive, we feel. This whole realm of physical body, of sensory experience is about feeling and thinking and perceiving. So it's always going out, through the senses, consciousness. We experience sensory consciousness by perceiving, by thinking, by feeling, pleasure, pain, happiness, suffering. So that this is where we're always going out towards objects of sensory objects. We experience the suffering because it's very uncertain, unstable, lots of fear. It's the way, the survival mechanisms of the body, and hunger and sexual desire and all these kind of forces, we feel, we are aware of. But our relationship to them changes from seeing them in personal terms to being sankharas. All sankharas are impermanent. Dhamma is non-personal. So Dhamma is here and now, not something you don't have. You've got to find. It says, what is, when you're aware, when you say Santidiko Dhamma, Santidiko, apparent here and now, what's apparent for you right now is that you're conscious. Consciousness and Dhamma are the same thing, really. Not like they have different qualities, just slightly different words pointing to the present moment. So I used to question when I became a monk, and you do this morning puja, evening puja, and you'd say Santidiko, Akaliko, Ehi Prasiko, Upanayiko, Bhajatang, Maitida, Niricada. You memorize it in Pali, and then you learn it, you translate it into Thai, and then when I went to live in UK, you translate into English. So Santini Kodam parent here and now. And so I think take that into what's apparent here and now. Wherever I am, whether I'm here in Dhammarama or in Ratanawan or in England, consciousness is apparent here and now. Timeless. Akalika. Come and see. It's like Egi Pasiko, like an invitation to wake up and see it yourself. And you're not going out anymore. You're not looking for Dhamma as some object that you can perceive, or some thought, or some feeling. But it's the reality of now, conscious awareness. Dhamma. And that's with you wherever you are, whether you're in India or Delhi or Bangkok. What are you feeling, whether you're healthy or sickly, or whether you're male or female or whatever. These are the conditions that we begin to no longer attach to out of ignorance. Professor Dar is from New Delhi.
Yes, we spoke earlier.
The city center which you inaugurated is also named Dhammarama.
It's simple. It's ultimate simplicity. And the thinking mind complicates because it divides. Thinking is Namarupa, Salayatana, Basa, Vedana, so like in dependent origination. You've got, Avijja, Bhajya, Sankhara, ignorance of Dhamma, not recognizing Dhamma, not realizing. When we start from Avijja, then that affects everything, the perceiving, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, and then consciousness, and then consciousness, Namarupa, division into name and form, Salayat, the six senses, it gets more complicated, six senses, and then Pasa, Vedana, and so forth. So we're constantly reacting to the pressures of feeling, of sensation, of perception, which is all about we like this, we don't like that, this is good, this is bad, right and wrong, day and night, you and me, and everything is divided into, sankharas, and we're caught in this realm. Samsara vata, a samsara of suffering, because we're always, inadequate in these perceptions. These perceptions are not perfect. You can't perfect any perception or sensation or thought, feeling. You have peak moments, like when you're really happy or you win the Nobel Peace Prize, or, so you have peak moments of pleasure and happiness and peace, but you can sustain it through sankharas. Sankharas are their natures to change, so they reach a peak. Like you're born, you grow up, you reach a peak of youth, and then you start growing old. And you can't, now so many people try to sustain youth into old age, and they're not very successful, because that's not the way it goes. But what sustains itself is awareness, consciousness. And you notice, like consciousness, like these words, like in Nibbana, becomes like the best. We start thinking of it in terms of it's better than happiness. It's the ultimate. And so that's the thinking, we're using a word like nibbana to put it at the top of the list, where it's here and now. It's not at the top. It's not about being the best. It's about being here and now. Dhamma is here and now. Consciousness is here and now. It's not the best. It's not about the best, or you've got to get the best. When you start thinking, then you're thinking as the best and the worst. Heaven is the best, hell is the worst. But here and now is like this. When I do that, then I respect the present moment. Awareness is like this, consciousness is like this. Silent. Perfect. So it's not something that you that's far away, or that you can't, that you can't spend your lifetime trying to get. But it's learning to trust in awareness, awakeness here and now. That's where, the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha, the brilliance of the teaching, and the fact that Buddha took something quite ordinary like suffering. Because suffering, dukkha, is ordinary. It's not like a metaphysical belief system. So it's awakening to the sense of inadequacy, of fear, of separation, something lacking, something missing in your life, worry about the future. It's ordinary. We all suffer, and putting it in the form of a noble truth to understand rather than to try to get rid of it. And it's that understanding that we see the suffering we create by attaching to unsatisfactoriness. Like your body's unsatisfactory. It's never, it's about the feeling, the physical feeling. How long can you sit like this and not experience physical discomfort? So through the day and night, we're constantly changing our position from sitting, standing, walking, like that. And then, it's too hot or too cold. Even with air conditioning, it gets too cold. You switch it off, it gets too hot. And this realm the sensory realm is like this. But then, this realm, sensory realm, its very nature is unsatisfactory. So it takes us to nibbana, to the reality of here and now, which is perfection. And then a relationship to the sankharas, to the physical body, to the memory, ability to remember, and sense of a separate self. The Buddha said they're all sankharas. Sape sankhara and each other, all impermanent. And so that which is aware of sankhara is not impermanent. It's permanent, it's awareness. Conscious. Amatta Dhamma, deathless reality. So then that's our refuge rather than trying to make a lot of money or, have medical insurance. And all these things are okay, but they're not real refuges you can depend on. they're subject to change in ways that we have no control over. And their very nature is to change. So it's, it leads us to this sense of fear of death, fear of dying. One of the common questions people ask is, what do you believe happens when you die? And if you take refuge in deathless, then the body dies. That's its nature. When it reaches a certain age, then it packs up and dies. That's the body. That's not a person anymore. What we really love and respect is consciousness, is Dhamma, is ultimate reality.
But even when you say that, Lampur, for most, when you say it's just the body dies, there's still something remains that thinks, oh yes, but some part of me still lives. In other words, the consciousness is like still my consciousness, and that continues to live.
Then that's just the thinking process.
Yes,
yeah.
but I think
it's like I am a soul. Like I was brought up as a Christian, so you believe in a personal soul that's separate. And when the body dies, then your soul goes to heaven or hell, or some. You've got these various ideas that people have in Christian religion about your separate soul. My mother told me that if I kept the precepts, kept the commandments, and so forth, lived a good life, then my soul I'd spend eternity with Jesus in heaven. And then I thought, do I really want to do that? Is that really? That could be really boring, as a person. Eternity with Jesus in heaven, with all these other souls. It doesn't make sense. But what is meant by the soul is consciousness, which is non-personal. And that's why I encourage you to recognize that, trust that more and more. When you think about it, you can't. You've got to stop trying to figure it out. Trust awareness. I think it's very nice to see you.
Great.
Professor Arthur.